The phone lines inside the Cleveland Browns, front office are lighting up like a Christmas tree, and it's not because of fan mail. Multiple AFC teams, real contenders, are blowing up Jimmy Haslam's phone, all asking the same question. Is Shedeur Sanders available? That question alone has sent shockwaves through Cleveland. Just a few months ago, Shedeur was supposed to be the Browns' future, the young, electric quarterback handpicked by ownership to change the narrative of a cursed franchise. And now, he's sitting on the bench, buried behind a struggling Dillon Gabriel, while other teams around the league are begging for a chance to get him. Sources close to the team say Haslam was completely blindsided by the trade interest. He didn't expect this kind of frenzy, not for a fifth-round rookie who hasn't even played a full game yet. But that's the power of buzz. That's the power of potential. And right now, Shedeur Sanders is the name on every GM's radar. Behind the scenes, the tension is boiling. The Browns' front office is split right down the middle. Some believe Shedeur should be untouchable, the future cornerstone of the franchise. Others say if Kevin Stefanski refuses to play him, then maybe it's time to cut losses and move on. But the real question nobody wants to say out loud is this: why isn't Stefanski playing him in the first place? The Browns are sitting in the middle of a weak division. Their defense is elite. Their run game is solid. They actually have a shot at turning this season around. And yet, somehow, the most talked-about young quarterback in the league can't get a single meaningful snap. That doesn't just happen by accident. Something's off. Insiders are already whispering that this situation isn't just about football anymore, it's personal. Stefanski's loyalty to his own hand-picked quarterbacks, his system guys, is legendary. But so is his stubbornness. Every week, Dillon Gabriel trots out as the starter. Every week, the Browns' offense sputters and dies. And every week, Shedeur Sanders stands on the sideline, helmet on, waiting for a chance that never comes. Meanwhile, the rest of the league smells opportunity. Rival teams see a talented quarterback rotting on the bench and wonder if Cleveland might crack under pressure. Calls are flooding in from front offices that know exactly what Shedeur could be if he's unleashed in the right system. And that's what makes this story dangerous for Cleveland, because these aren't random trade rumors. These are real offers from teams ready to make a move. If the Browns don't handle this the right way, they could lose the player they drafted to lead their future and hand another franchise their next superstar. If you're enjoying this video and loving the content, don't forget to give us a big thumbs up. It really helps us know what you want to see more of. And why keep all the excitement to yourself? Share this video with your friends, family, or anyone who loves NFL drama. The clock is ticking. The trade deadline is closing in. And somewhere inside the Browns' headquarters, a decision is being made that could flip the AFC upside down. Is Cleveland really about to lose Shedeur Sanders before he's even had his shot? Because if they do, this won't just be another quarterback controversy. It'll be the biggest mistake in franchise history. Inside the Browns facility, the quarterback room has turned into a pressure cooker. What started as a simple competition between Dillon Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders has turned into something darker, a silent, uneasy standoff that no one in the building wants to talk about. On paper, Gabriel was supposed to be the steady hand, the calm, experienced passer who could run Kevin Stefanski's system cleanly. But after a string of sloppy starts, missed reads, and flat-out ugly red zone decisions, the locker room began to shift. Players started glancing toward the rookie. Maybe it was time for a change. Shedeur wasn't saying much, but his energy said everything. Calm, composed, waiting. Those who have seen him work during practice say he's been surgical, hitting throws other guys wouldn't even attempt, reading defenses like he's been in the league for years. But instead of being rewarded, he's been frozen out. Stefanski keeps brushing off questions, saying Shedeur isn't ready yet. But that line is starting to wear thin. Because everyone, from the trainers to the veterans, can see what's really going on. This isn't about readiness. It's about control. Stefanski's entire reputation is built on discipline and structure. He doesn't like players who bring cameras into the locker room. He doesn't like off-field spotlight. And Shedeur, with his name, his father, and his social media following, is the walking embodiment of everything Stefanski can't control. Reports from inside the team describe the vibe as tense but polite. Translation: everyone's watching what they say. The offense feels divided. The veterans, especially those who have been through multiple losing seasons, want the best chance to win, and some quietly believe Shedeur is that chance. Others, especially Stefanski loyalists, are towing the company line. No drama, no distractions, stick to the system. But systems don't win games. Quarterbacks do. And every week that passes without Shedeur seeing the field, that truth gets louder. Then came the breaking point, a closed-door meeting between Haslam, the GM, and Stefanski. Insiders claim the conversation got heated. Ownership wanted to know why their rookie wasn't even being considered while the season was slipping away. Stefanski pushed back hard, insisting he knew what was best for the team. The call ended with no resolution, but the message was clear. The front office and the coaching staff were no longer aligned. Behind the scenes, Shedeur has kept his head down, but his camp isn't staying quiet. Sources close to the family have hinted that if things don't change soon, they'll start exploring other opportunities. That's not a bluff, it's a warning. And that's when the phone calls started coming in. Because around the league, word spreads fast. Rival scouts had already been buzzing about Shedeur's talent since preseason. Now, with Cleveland unraveling from the inside, those same teams saw a chance to swoop in. But that was just the beginning, because what happened next would pull the entire locker room into the chaos. To understand why Shedeur Sanders isn't playing, you have to understand Kevin Stefanski, the man running the show in Cleveland. On the surface, Stefanski looks like the perfect modern coach, calm, analytical, unshakable. But beneath that composed exterior lies his biggest flaw: stubborn loyalty to his system. He doesn't just coach quarterbacks, he molds them. If they don't fit into his blueprint, they're out no matter how talented they are. And that's exactly where the problem starts. Shedeur Sanders is everything Stefanski's system is. He's flashy, confident, a playmaker who thrives in chaos, the kind of quarterback who turns broken plays into highlight reels. Stefanski doesn't like that. He wants precision, timing, and predictability. He wants a machine, not a magician. That clash of philosophies has quietly poisoned the Browns' locker room. Players who see Shedeur's fire and competitiveness are frustrated by the coach's refusal to adapt. Meanwhile, Stefanski's loyalists keep defending him, saying, he knows what he's doing. But deep down, even they can see the offense has gone stale. Week after week, the Browns' drives sputter out. The crowd at First Energy Stadium grows restless. Every incomplete pass from Dylan Gabriel draws louder and louder chants of Shedeur, Shedeur. It's becoming impossible to ignore, except Stefanski somehow still does. Inside team meetings, Stefanski keeps emphasizing structure and discipline. But to the players, it's starting to sound like code for my way or the highway. He's losing the room not because he's a bad coach, but because he's refusing to listen. And then there's the politics. Stefanski knows what playing Shedeur really means. It means embracing the spotlight that comes with the Sanders name. It means cameras, storylines, and comparisons to Dayan. It means giving up control of the narrative, something Stefanski's not wired to do. One insider put it bluntly, Stefanski doesn't want to coach Dayan Sanders' son, he wants to coach his quarterback. That one sentence sums it all up. This isn't just about performance, it's about ego. The tension reached its peak after Week 6, when reports leaked that Haslam had personally asked why Shedeur wasn't dressing for games. Stefanski brushed it off publicly, but privately he was furious. To him, it wasn't just a question, it was a challenge to his authority. And that's when everything started to spiral. Staff members describe the energy in the building as uneasy. The head coach feels cornered. The owner feels ignored. And the locker room feels like it's stuck in the middle of a power struggle. But here's the twist. Stefanski might not realize just how close he is to losing it all. Because if the Browns don't turn things around fast, ownership isn't just going to demand answers. They're going to demand changes. And when that happens, the question won't be whether Shedeur stays in Cleveland. It'll be whether Stefanski does. By midseason, the tension inside the Browns' headquarters wasn't just uncomfortable, it was toxic. What started as quiet disagreements between Kevin Stefanski and Jimmy Haslam had turned into a full-blown power struggle that was dividing the entire organization. It began with a simple question from ownership. Why isn't Shedeur playing? But behind that question was something deeper: frustration, confusion, and a growing fear that the Browns were once again sabotaging their own future. Haslam had invested heavily, not just in the roster, but in the idea of Shedeur Sanders. The marketing, the buzz, the promise of a young star under center, it was all part of a bigger vision for Cleveland's brand. But Stefanski didn't care about any of that. He was focused on control, structure, and his system. To him, ownership meddling in football decisions was a red line. The breaking point came during a closed-door meeting that lasted nearly 2 hours. Multiple sources later described it as icy, with neither side backing down. Haslam pressed for answers. Why were they sitting on a talented rookie while the team stumbled? Stefanski fired back, saying he wouldn't cave to outside noise or rush development for PR optics. It wasn't just about football anymore. It was about who really ran the Cleveland Browns. After that meeting, everything changed. Haslam began consulting more directly with the general manager, quietly exploring trade scenarios and gathering leverage. Stefanski, on the other hand, tightened his grip on the locker room, limiting media access and holding closed practices. Players noticed. Staff noticed. Everyone noticed. The team began to feel split into 2 camps: Team Haslam and Team Stefanski. The veterans, who'd seen this movie before, just shook their heads. They knew what usually came next when an owner and coach started playing chess behind the scenes: chaos. Even worse, the locker room morale started to crumble. Players loyal to Shedeur felt like the franchise was wasting him. Others just wanted the noise to stop. The front office, once unified, now moved like a divided cabinet, every decision coming with political strings attached. And through it all, Shedeur remained silent. No tweets, no public comments, just quiet confidence, the kind that made the whispers even louder. Some inside the organization saw that silence as maturity. Others saw it as defiance. But either way, it kept him at the center of the storm.
If you enjoyed today's breakdown and want to keep up with all the drama, trades, and behind-the-scenes action in the NFL, then don't forget to hit that like button.
By week 8, rumors began to swirl that Haslam had reached out to advisors outside the organization for input. Translation: he was preparing for a power move. If the Browns lost a few more games, Stefanski's seat wouldn't just be warm, it would be on fire. The tension had reached a point where something had to give. And when ownership and the head coach are both pulling in opposite directions, the only question left is who breaks first. Because in Cleveland, history says it's never the owner. Once word got out that Jimmy Haslam and Kevin Stefanski were no longer seeing eye to eye, the rest of the NFL could smell blood in the water. It started quietly, a few front office texts, a couple of just checking in calls. But within days, the rumor mill exploded. Every AFC team with quarterback problems wanted to know the same thing: was Shedeur Sanders actually available? The Browns tried to shut it down fast. Stefanski's camp leaked that there was no trade discussion, while the front office insisted that Shedeur was part of the long-term plan. But insiders weren't buying it. Because when ownership and the coach are feuding, nothing is off the table, not even a franchise quarterback in waiting. First came the Saints. Reports claimed they were willing to throw out a $21 million rookie trade package to land Shedeur, an unheard-of number for a player who hadn't even started a full NFL game. Then the Raiders got involved, dangling future draft picks and cap space flexibility. And just like that, the Browns' internal problem had become a league-wide bidding war. In the AFC North, rival GMs were practically salivating. Pittsburgh scouts were openly monitoring the situation. Cincinnati's front office, usually silent during trade chatter, was suddenly doing research. Even Baltimore insiders hinted that the Ravens were curious, not because they needed Shedeur, but to make sure he didn't land in the wrong hands. The madness reached a boiling point when ESPN dropped a late-night report suggesting that multiple AFC contenders have contacted Cleveland about Shedeur Sanders. Social media went nuclear. Hashtags like Free Shedeur and Let Him Play began trending overnight. Fans flooded Brown's comment sections demanding answers. For Shedeur, the chaos was surreal. Just months earlier, he was a promising rookie trying to earn a shot. Now, he was being treated like a franchise savior by everyone except his own team. Inside the facility, things got even more awkward. Players started whispering about where he might land if he got traded. Some even joked that he'd be throwing touchdowns in New Orleans by next month. Stefanski reportedly held a team meeting to squash the noise, telling players to focus on football. But by that point, the locker room had already lost focus. Meanwhile, Haslam was watching the whole circus unfold, and he wasn't amused. The last thing he wanted was for Cleveland to look like a franchise in disarray. But the truth was impossible to hide. The moment those trade calls started, the Browns' secret was out. There was a war brewing inside the building. And as more offers rolled in, the stakes only got higher. Every passing day made it harder to walk back. Every leak made Shedeur look more like a victim than a backup. The NFL was watching, the fans were watching, and now the Browns were cornered. Because one wrong move here wouldn't just lose them a rookie, it could shatter the franchise's future. By the time November hit, the Cleveland Browns weren't just losing games, they were losing themselves. What had started as quiet frustration inside the locker room had turned into something much uglier. Players stopped hiding their emotions. Coaches stopped pretending everything was fine. The team's unity, once its strongest trait, was gone. It began after another brutal home loss, the kind that sucks the air right out of a stadium. Dylan Gabriel threw 2 interceptions. The offense looked completely lifeless, and fans were chanting Shedeur's name so loud it drowned out the post-game music. In the locker room, you could feel the tension snap. Veterans slammed helmets, receivers muttered about wasted routes, and one defensive starter, off the record, told a reporter that the wrong guy was leading the team. Stefanski, visibly frustrated, delivered a short post-game speech that sounded more like a lecture than motivation. He told the players to trust the process, but no one was listening anymore. Shedeur sat quietly in his corner, headphones on, staring at the floor. He didn't say a word, but that silence spoke louder than anything else in the room. To his teammates, it felt like the kid had been done wrong. And when players start believing that, a coach's authority starts to crumble. Within days, the cracks were visible. Team meetings grew tense. Players stopped responding with the usual "yes, coach." Position groups started forming their own opinions, some defending Stefanski's approach, others flat out questioning it. The offense looked divided. The defense looked tired of carrying the load. Then came the tipping point. An anonymous player leaked to a local beat writer that nobody believes in the direction anymore. The story went viral within hours. Suddenly, Cleveland wasn't just a struggling team. It was a national headline for dysfunction. Sports shows tore into them. Former players called the situation embarrassing. And the fans, once hopeful, turned on the franchise completely. Haslam was livid, not just because of the losses, but because of what they represented, a team with no direction and no discipline. He wanted answers and fast. Stefanski tried to reassure ownership that he could fix the culture, but at this point, it wasn't about culture anymore, it was about credibility. The locker room had chosen sides, and the coach wasn't winning that vote. Behind closed doors, assistant coaches began whispering that a change was coming. Some were already updating resumes. Others were trying to keep players motivated, even though they knew the season was circling the drain. And Shedeur, still waiting, still silent, still the symbol of everything Cleveland had done wrong. Because this wasn't just a quarterback controversy anymore, it was a meltdown. A slow, public unraveling of a team that had once believed it could change the narrative. But Cleveland didn't just lose control. They lost the one thing no franchise can survive without: belief. And once that's gone, there's no playbook that can save you. When you strip away the stats, the headlines, and the excuses, what's left in Cleveland isn't a football problem, it's a personal war. Kevin Stefanski versus Shedeur Sanders. A coach clinging to his pride against a quarterback who represents everything he doesn't believe in. To outsiders, it might look like a simple coaching decision, but people close to the Browns know this goes deeper than X's and O's. This is about ego, perception, and control. Stefanski didn't just choose Dylan Gabriel over Shedeur, he drew a line in the sand. It started on draft night. Reports say Stefanski wanted a developmental system guy, someone quiet, moldable, textbook. Jimmy Haslam went the other direction. He saw the charisma, the poise, the command that Shedeur carried even before stepping onto an NFL field. To Haslam, Shedeur wasn't just a quarterback, he was a brand, a potential face of the franchise. That pick embarrassed Stefanski in front of his staff. His word had been overruled. And ever since that night, it's been war in silence. At first, Stefanski tried to keep it professional. He said all the right things about competition and development. But behind the scenes, he was making sure Shedeur stayed buried, giving him minimal first-team reps, scripting practices that didn't fit his playstyle, even limiting his appearances in media sessions. The message was clear: you're not my guy. Then came the back injury. The team listed Shedeur as questionable just hours before kickoff. Insiders later admitted he looked fine during warm-ups. He threw, he moved, he was ready. But suddenly he was ruled out. The official reason? Tightness in the lower back. The unofficial reason? Stefanski wanted no chance of him stepping onto that field and making him look bad. Because that's what this is really about, fear of being proven wrong. If Shedeur steps in and plays well, the narrative changes overnight. The same fans booing Stefanski would turn on him completely for wasting half a season. Ownership would question why their hand-picked quarterback sat on the bench. The locker room would rally behind the kid, not the coach. And that's Stefanski's nightmare. So instead, he's doubling down, sacrificing games, momentum, and even his reputation just to avoid giving Shedeur a shot. It's not logical, but it's emotional. It's what happens when pride outweighs purpose. Even players see it now. Myles Garrett reportedly told a teammate, "This isn't football anymore, it's personal." And when your stars start saying things like that, the coach has already lost the room. Stefanski's vendetta isn't just hurting Shedeur, it's poisoning the entire team. The Browns aren't united by a common goal anymore. They're divided by a grudge that started the moment a young quarterback walked into the building with confidence that threatened his head coach's comfort zone. This isn't about wins and losses anymore. It's about pride, fear, and a vendetta that's tearing Cleveland apart from the inside out. And until that's settled, one way or another, the Browns don't stand a chance. The NFL trade deadline is supposed to separate contenders from pretenders. But in Cleveland, it's separating the truth from the lies. As the clock ticks toward 4 p.m. on deadline day, the Browns aren't just fighting over draft picks or trade value. They're fighting over identity. Inside team headquarters, the atmosphere feels like a pressure cooker. Phones are buzzing, texts are flying, and every executive looks like they're holding their breath. Jimmy Haslam sits in his office with the blinds drawn, his phone lighting up with messages from general managers across the AFC. The offers for Shedeur Sanders are real, and they're getting louder by the hour. The Las Vegas Raiders have called twice. The Patriots reached out with interest. Even the Texans have made inquiries. The offers vary, a fourth-rounder here, a conditional third there, but the message is the same. If you're not going to play him, we will. Haslam's advisors are split down the middle. One group says trade him now, get value before the situation becomes unfixable. The other says hold the line, bench the coach if you have to, but don't let go of the quarterback you drafted to be the future. It's a classic NFL crossroads, protect your investment or protect your ego. Meanwhile, Kevin Stefanski is packing his office downstairs, fully aware of what's happening above his head. Sources say he's already warned the front office that trading Shedeur would be a massive distraction, and that the team needs stability. But the truth is, he's terrified. If Shedeur is traded and shines somewhere else, Stefanski's reputation will be torched permanently. He's coaching for his life and for his narrative. Players feel the tension too. Myles Garrett skips media availability. Receivers whisper about what's really going on. Even Dillon Gabriel, still QB1, looks uneasy, knowing that half the locker room doesn't believe in him anymore. It's not just a team issue anymore, it's an organizational identity crisis. By mid-afternoon, Haslam's patience is wearing thin. A report leaks that a mystery AFC contender has offered a day 2 pick for Shedeur. Social media explodes. Fans are begging the Browns not to make the deal. The pressure is now public. And just like that, the entire football world is watching Cleveland's next move. Then at 3:30 p.m., Haslam calls Stefanski into his office. Witnesses describe the meeting as tense and cold. Haslam lays it out bluntly. Play him or we move him. Stefanski doesn't flinch. He insists the team isn't ready for that change. Haslam nods, expression unreadable, and dismisses him. 30 minutes later, the Browns release a statement. The Cleveland Browns are not entertaining any trade discussions involving quarterback Shedeur Sanders. The phones stop ringing. The deadline passes. But inside the building, the damage is done. Stefanski knows his leash just got shorter. Haslam knows he may have to fire his coach to protect his investment. And Shedeur, he knows he just survived the trade block, but the real battle is still ahead. Because after the deadline passes, there are no more excuses. There's only one question left in Cleveland. When does Shedeur Sanders finally play? The trade deadline has come and gone, but inside the Browns' facility, the silence feels heavier than ever. No deal was made. No changes were announced. And yet, everyone knows something coming. The bye week has officially begun, and with it, the ultimatum that could change everything. Jimmy Haslam has spent the last 48 hours replaying conversations in his head. The phone calls from other teams. The arguments with Kevin Stefanski. The look on Shedeur's face as he walked off the practice field, helmet in hand, knowing he's still a backup for reasons that have nothing to do with football. The owner can feel it. The organization is at a breaking point. The Browns' record sits at 2-4. Not good, not terrible, just stuck. They're still alive in the playoff race, but barely. And Haslam knows the bye week is his last chance to take control before the season spirals into chaos. So he makes a quiet decision, one that will define everything that happens next. On Monday morning, he calls a private meeting. No PR reps, no assistants. Just Haslam, Stefanski, and GM Andrew Berry sitting in a windowless conference room, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. Haslam doesn't yell. He doesn't threaten. He just lays it out with chilling clarity. We've got 2 weeks. You figure out who's giving us the best chance to win. I don't care about your system, Kevin. I care about results. Stefanski nods, but everyone in the room knows he's furious. He sees it as interference, an owner overstepping his lane. But Barry's silence says it all. The GM has seen the film. He knows Gabriel isn't getting it done. And he knows the locker room is losing faith fast. Meanwhile, the players are talking, quietly but constantly. Myles Garrett, Amari Cooper, and Nick Chubb are veterans. They've seen losing seasons before, but not like this. Not with this much tension in the air. One player describes the locker room as split down the middle. Half of them believe in Shedeur's talent. The other half just wants stability, even if it means sticking with a quarterback who can't move the ball. And then there's Shedeur himself. He's been the model professional through it all, showing up early, studying film, supporting Gabriel on the sideline. But deep down, everyone knows he's waiting. Waiting for someone to finally say, "It's your time." His teammates see it too. One assistant reportedly told a reporter off the record. He's ready. Everyone knows he's ready. The question is, does Kevin care? As the week closes, the ultimatum looms. Stefanski tells the media it's business as usual. But behind the scenes, the walls are closing in. Haslam isn't bluffing. He's made it clear. If the offense doesn't improve after the bye, he'll make the change himself, coach or no coach. So, as the team disperses for a few days of rest, everyone knows what's waiting on the other side. The Jets game isn't just another Sunday matchup. It's a make-or-break showdown for Kevin Stefanski's career and Shedeur Sanders' future. Because after this bye week, one of them isn't walking out of Cleveland the same. By the time Cleveland enters its bye week, it isn't just a local story anymore, it's a league-wide spectacle. ESPN panels, NFL insiders, and fan podcasts are dissecting every whisper from inside Berea. Everyone has a theory, everyone has a source, and everyone seems to know that something big is coming. It starts with a tweet. An anonymous NFL reporter posts late one night. Hearing things in Cleveland aren't as calm as they seem. Don't be shocked if major QB news drops after the bye. Within minutes, it's everywhere, retweeted, quoted, debated. Fans flood comment sections. Some insist Shedeur Sanders is about to take over. Others claim Stefanski, on the verge of being fired. The story takes on a life of its own. Inside league offices, the curiosity turns into quiet concern. Executives and scouts start asking the same question. How did it get this bad this fast? Just months ago, Cleveland was viewed as a stable, playoff-caliber team. Now, it's a franchise teetering on the edge of implosion. Shedeur's name, though, keeps surfacing, not as a cautionary tale, but as a lightning rod. Around the league, GMs and coaches have been watching his situation closely. They've seen his college tape. They know what he's capable of. And with rumors swirling that the Browns might entertain trade offers if things keep deteriorating, phones are being picked up quietly. One NFC executive reportedly told an insider, "If they don't want him, someone else will. The kid's a starter, he just needs the right team." It's the same sentiment echoed by analysts across the country. NFL Network runs a segment titled The Shedeur Situation, breaking down his stats from limited preseason snaps and the internal politics keeping him sidelined. Commentators start comparing the ordeal to other legendary QB controversies, Tom Brady versus Bledsoe, Rodgers versus Favre. Except this time, it feels more personal, more public, and far more volatile. Meanwhile, the Browns' media relations team is in damage control mode. Every day brings a new headline. Stefanski losing locker room. Haslam's patience wearing thin. Shedeur ready to walk. The PR staff tries to spin it, but fans have already chosen their side. They want change, they want fire, and they want to see what the rookie can do. On social media, Shedeur's name trends for days. Clips from his college highlights flood TikTok and Twitter, often captioned, "Free Shedeur." Even other players quietly, through likes and subtle comments, seem to be rooting for him. It's become a movement. And as the noise builds, Cleveland can't hide from it anymore. The league is watching. Every analyst, every scout, every rival coach knows that whatever happens next in Cleveland will ripple across the entire NFL. Because this isn't just about one quarterback anymore, it's about how a franchise handles its future. And everyone's wondering, will the Browns finally make the move that changes everything, or will pride and politics bury them for good? By the time the smoke finally clears in Cleveland, the story has become bigger than football. What started as a quarterback controversy has turned into a mirror, reflecting every flaw, every ego, and every misstep that defined the franchise for decades.
If you enjoyed today's breakdown and want to keep up with all the drama, trades, and behind-the-scenes action in the NFL, then don't forget to hit that like button. It really helps this channel grow and lets us know you love this kind of content. And hey, don't keep it to yourself. Share this video with your friends, your group chats, or anyone who loves football as much as you do. The more the conversation spreads, the better it gets. Most importantly, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel and tap the notification bell. That way, you'll never miss when we drop fresh stories, wild rumors, or breaking updates that the mainstream media won't talk about.